Okay, awesome. Well, I'm glad we've been able to explain it really well. Next thing I want to kind of dive in is the number 5 here, as it looks on the Google homepage. Like we see here, it's red, and we have the text actually white. And that's right here. This list item right here has the ID of circle. Yep, absolutely. And so since this is kind of the only one on the page, that's the reason why I stuck with an ID. If we're going to be using this multiple areas of the page, you're likely to stick with a class. Because an ID you can only use once, classes you can use multiple times. And were we good on this one? Or do you want me to leave it up longer? Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and dive right into styling this. So we have our ID of circle, if I can spell it right. This one's going to be a little bit tricky here. So the color, of course, is going to be the white. Another way we can do it is the FFF hex character. I'm just going to use a shorthand. Otherwise, it would be all 6. And when we go back to our page, the 5 should be gone. Yeah, it's still there, but the color blends in. And we want to set this background. And I don't really know how this background is going to suit. So for that kind of red background, I'm just going to use the same red that they used. So I'll go ahead and just hop into Inspect Element, click on this one, and just grab the color that they used. And it looks like it's a DB4437. And I'll just come back in here, use it, save it. And this is one issue with inline elements, and that's the anchor tag doing that. So what I'm actually going to want to do is something like the display inline block. I don't know exactly how relevant this will be, but just for general purposes, I'll go ahead and do this so I can set a width and a height for it. So the width is actually the one that I want to, that I really care about. It's a little bit skinnier than it is taller. So I want the width to be, actually, you know what? Yeah. I'll do padding since it'll make the entire circle a clickable region. Yep. And so for the padding, I think I simply just want 5 pixels on the top and the bottom just to make the clickable region just a little bit larger. And for the left and the right, I definitely want something bigger. So I'll go ahead and I'll start with 15 and just kind of maneuver that. So what I've done so far is I've set the color of the text to white. So that little 5 that's going to be in there. The background is going to be that same red color. The display is going to be inline block so that I can assign padding to the anchor tag without it really doing nothing. Inline block will actually be able to apply padding to it.
Sorry, interrupt. So y'all get why he had to change the display? So this kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday with the inline elements. If you do the padding, it's not gonna show up with the background color.
Repeat that again.
So if you do the inline elements, it's not going to have the same effect versus having a block component to it when you try to do, since, so this ID is on the anchor tag. It's not on the list item itself, it's on the anchor tag. And anchor tags are inline elements, naturally. So it's displaying inline naturally, but he's changing it to have a block display about it in some way so that then when we assign the padding, or if he chose to do width and height, that it would have the intended, styling that we want it to have.
Is it possible to give? Sorry.
Go ahead, Ian.
Is it possible to give that ID to the LI and style the LI instead?
Yes, you could. However, the way we styled it so far, it would.
No.
Did you do the padding like top and bottom, right? With
Yeah,
LIs?
I did.
So see how the LI has that padding, that universal padding through it. So the reason why we're just applying it to the anchor tag is to keep that all universal, and then we'll just mess with what's inside the list item instead of messing with the list item itself. Does that make sense?
Another question, like why are we using background instead of background color?
That's a really good question, actually. I'm simply used to.
People online. So he asked why we're using background versus background color.
Sure. So background, you have background color, and background image. I kind of see just background as background, and because the background shorthand can take an image or simply a color or a gradient for that matter, I guess it's kind of just me instead of having to type the dash color or dash image. Since background's already universal, either way, background color would have worked perfectly fine. It's just a shorthand property.
It has to go with that shorthand property we talked about yesterday
Yeah.
when we combined all the different background principles into one. This way, you don't have to explicitly put in each one. You can just, it has color right here, so it's just going to ignore the rest.
Okay. The shorthand property for background goes, so you could specify background dash color, then you could specify background dash repeat, or you could just do background and you can put in color, image, repeat, position top, position right. So that's the shorthand. And you can just specify some of it that the computer knows to figure out, oh, that's just, you're giving me the color. It's like margin.
Playing around with it, seeing if it changes at all.
No, I'm alphabetizing. All right. So one last thing that they have is the kind of border radius here is actually what it's called. It gives the circular kind of thing. And we can actually do this very simply. We actually don't even have to set a border color. Border radius simply states what kind of shape do we want this to be in. Okay. So the border radius for a circle is just 50%. Which means that it's going to round each corner off by 50%, which will put it all in a circle. 50% will suffice. However, older versions of IE, which realistically clients are going to be using like IE6, IE7. One quick difference for here is just to add the second 50%. Realistically, people will be using different browsers, and some might not support that single 50%. 50-50 will work the exact same way as just a single 50%, but for compatibility, we're using both 50%s.
Are we trying to get a circle out of this? Right now we've got an oval by doing that.
We do because of the padding.
Yeah.
And that's
I mean,
Can we just do 100% and do 15 picks, 15 picks?
so with the border radius, if you do it 100%, it's not going to change it anymore. Like in the fact that it 50% is basically the maximum effects you're going to see because it's already curved as much as possible. So if this image was a complete circle, it would be curved perfectly. I mean, if this image was equal width and height, it would be curved perfectly into a circle.
Go look.
That worked actually.
I know.
Did you change the padding at all?
No, actually I did. I dropped the padding down to 10 pixels actually.
So if he changes this to 50%, it's going to still be the same.
I actually, honest to God, never knew that you could just do 100%, but I'm used to just 50%, 50%.
I learned that in the training.
For Codecademy? Really?
Yeah, but
Learned that in training Codecademy.
they're both the same value in terms of.
I'm just going to round the circle off, don't mind me. So I'm actually using, you know what, 10 pixels is fine. Okay, perfect. So I have some padding here.
Could you just show people, just sort of reinforce, because I just ran this. Because line 31, you were like, hey, you might have this issue with Internet Explorer 6 and 7. So can I use border radius and just show people all the browsers and how to, I think that's just a good working practice technique. Like,
Absolutely.
if you have questions about, how do I need to apply this? How many customers might I be losing because, I'm not putting in a certain thing or I'm using a certain thing. You come here, but then go up and click Show All, right there. Yeah. And now you see all the browsers, and then you can hover over Internet Explorer 6 and 7. So that's number 6 is go up to 6 is 0.08% of the market, and number 7 is go down one more is 0.08. So you're losing 0.16% on 6 and 7. That's the percentage of people still using those browsers.
Not like it's considerably a big deal, but.
Can I use as much? Does that include with like when you use WebKit and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can auto prefix up top right there.
Yeah.
Global and unprefixed. So global, is 91.28%, and that's with prefixing. But if you unprefix, prefix is 91.07%. So if you put in Flexbox, just put in Flex up top. When we learn about Flexbox, you can see that unprefixed, only 71% of the market can do it, but globally 93% of the market when you prefix.
This is actually a fantastic tool, by the way.
Have you found a site where it just shows you all the prefixes? Because I've never found one. I just
Like for which ones you should use for which to like, oh, you still need this, you still need that. Just auto prefixer is the only thing I've found.
Yeah.
Have you?
no, I've looked for one.
Yeah. That's our market opportunity.
There you go.
Okay, so we're talking about just can I use and the compatibility for border radius. Border radius, you may hit a small kind of market where we actually will have people using that, where border radius won't take just the first one. So we add the second one. Otherwise, for modern browsers, like it was just introduced to me a second ago, we can actually just replace this whole thing with the 100%. I think I'm just going to stick with the 50% just for the compatibility, but 100% is totally doable. And I did adjust the padding down here. It's now 5 pixels for the top and bottom. Left and right is going to be the 10 pixels, which looks pretty fantastic for me. To me, we get a pretty good round circle here. It's kind of ovular around the left and right side, but it's totally fine. You're not going to see it this zoomed out. So last thing we have here is the font's a little bit smaller, and I'll go ahead and just do that now. And then we have the hover last, and that'll do it for the top bar. So to get the font size smaller, what I actually want to do is just taking a look back here at the original Google homepage. It looks like these font sizes actually up here are a little bit smaller than the ones down here. Don't really have the necessary proof. I don't know how closely resembling we want to get to this, but I'll just open up Inspect Element anyway, if it'll open. There we go. And so we can look at the font sizes here. We got a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Google's code's pretty wicked.
Yeah, for such a simple page, it's amazing how much code is there.
And how many divs they have.
Okay.
I feel like they don't follow anything they say either.
Serious?
Yeah, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So it looks like they're using a font size of the 13 pixels up here, and I'll go ahead and just note this down really quickly. I want the header right globally to have a font size of the 13 pixels. And we'll go ahead and put this in, and we have our 13 pixels right here. And I'll just go ahead and readjust the padding here. It's not really good programming practice, nor was that good English, to simply adjust the font size here. So adjusting the font size, it's now disregarding the padding itself. And like you were saying, this is actually a good way, a reason to do simply the padding on the LI instead. But my fear here is that whether we do it on the list item or the anchor tag, we're going to receive the same effect. So if you're shrinking the font size and you happen to get this oval here, simply readjust this padding. I just changed to the exact same thing to kind of compensate for that. So I'll just go ahead and stick with the 9 pixels here. It's not the most circular thing, but it will just give you a general idea of how that will actually work.
Instead of using the padding, if you use the width and height to make it into font size, would that be easier?
Yeah, let me go ahead and.
Changed with the font size. It's like
Yeah, that too. The width would change. Let me go ahead and just try that out really quickly. The width we'll just say is 25 pixels. The height.
Scroll back over just to see what it is with the padding and repeat that.
Oh, it could, yeah. Ha ha ha. So 25 high, 25 long. Okay. So then I'll just do the 25
And that
here.
way, like you said, it's not going to change with the font size.
All right, everything else looks fine here. All right, so that's one problem that we will have.
Then you're gonna have to mess with the background positioning and
Yeah.
the text align and all that. So just leave it with the padding.
Why did the five? Because the five. Why are this not aligned? What happened there?
Because we're modifying the width and the height and DOM elements by default top left, whether it's inline block or inline block, block inline or inline
We
block.
could have done background position center center.
So the text is top left and the circle's top left. Is that what's happening?
Well, because the text, the container of the text is smaller than the container of the actual element that the text is in, they're both top left, but it's all just going to be generally off of width at this point.
So that's where you have to have like a little flex container just for that one.
Yeah, that would be simple with flex, just to say align item and justify it.
You said position?
Actually, position's not going to work either because.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to text align, and then we're gonna have to align it vertically. So I would just stick with padding.
I'll stick with padding for now, yeah. I don't want to 0 and 1 you guys. All right, so we have the 5 pixels on the top and the bottom, the 10 pixels on the left and the right. And that should suffice just fine. I'm actually going to drop this down to 9. There we go. Awesome. All right, and lastly, we have the hover event right here. So whenever you hover over it, we kind of get this, this underline. We get the underline back. By default, an anchor tag will have that. So what we can simply do here is go in here. And then we're going to give it a pseudo class of hover. And so there's a multitude of pseudo classes, hover, before, after, target, things like that. We simply just want hover because that's what we're going to actually be using. So when we hover over it, I want to say this is text decoration again. There we go. Cool. Underline. And this will solve the underline here.
Beautiful. Good man.
There we go.